veteran trap is basically where you clear prelims easily with the preparation of about 3 months, but you are not able to clear the mains. That's the one level of the veteran trap. The second and the most painful level of the veteran trap is where you clear your prelims as well as your mains, but you are not able to clear the interview, mainly because your main score is stagnant. Though where he has highlighted the challenges as per the demand of the question, he has ended his answer with the way forward. This is what we call it going beyond the demand. Last year's paper, you just pick GS paper 1, 2 and 3. In all the 3 papers, you will find the question on the civil society. This year, you pick GS paper 2 and GS paper 4. In both the papers, you will find the question on the constitutional morality. Or in GS paper 1, you will find the question on the civil services, which is not there into the syllabus.
What are those X factor ingredients that you could put in your answer at various sections?
This is the X factor that you need in your answer.
One good source of current affairs, it can be Civilsdaily.
You need to have that X factor in your answer.
With the help of X factor notes,
this is the best notes you can have.
I used to read their X factor notes.
The questions are very good and even the answers were very detailed, and they were, I extracted a lot of content from them.
Basically, the session will be about the gaps that are there in your preparation, okay, which you need to bridge in next about 75 days, right, in order to be mains ready by January end and focus upon just the value additions and practice after the prelims. Okay, so see, there is what we call as the veteran trap. So that veteran trap is basically where you clear prelims easily with the preparation of about 3 months, but you are not able to clear the mains. That's the one level of the veteran trap. The second and the most painful level of the veteran trap is where you clear your prelims as well as your mains, but you are not able to clear the interview, mainly because your main score is stagnant, right? For example, there are many students which are there into the smash mains, okay, who have appeared. Just for example, the Saurabh Agrawal. Okay, so last year it was his 6th attempt. Okay, and before that he had appeared for the 4 mains, but and 2 interviews, but he couldn't clear the interview, and his main score was stagnant to about 730, 740s, but he couldn't pass that, right? So in the span of 3 months, we were able to increase that score from about 740 to around 790. So that 50-mark jump gave him the edge of about 40-50 marks, and with that, in his last attempt, he was able to clear, right? So first of all, it's very important to understand and analyze those gaps in your preparation, because after the first or second mains, the content is not an issue for majority of the aspirants, because you will be having the content. Okay, it's just the other aspects of the answer writing which makes the difference. For example, let me show you the answer of Aditya Srivastava itself. Okay, so this answer he wrote in 2022. Okay, so in this answer also, if you see, the major issue is not with respect to the structuring. The major issue is not with respect to the content as such, because he has the decent content. He has addressed the demands of the questions as well, right? But he had missed on the 2 important aspects. One is the presentation, and the second aspect which he missed was with respect to the neatness, and the third, or presentation or neatness, we can club together. And the second aspect which he missed was going beyond the demand. So what does this exactly mean? Basically, the session is for that only, and in next 1 hour I'll explain everything. Okay, but with these kind of the answers were simply based upon the content, he became IPS. Okay, so even if you bridge your knowledge gap, okay, it is the IPS at most you can reach. But the answer of Aditya Srivastava in 2023. Okay, so the presentation or the neatness aspect that I was talking about, in this answer also he had given examples, but they were not clearly visible. Okay, here he missed the visibility aspect itself. But in this answer, if you see, his examples are clearly visible or are covered in the next part. Second, though where he has highlighted the challenges as per the demand of the question, he has ended his answer with the way forward. This is what we call it going beyond the demand. And across his papers, you will find the similar pattern. And these small changes makes the difference of just 1 mark into your answer. And in total in GS papers, you have to write about 79 answers. So 1 mark also per question makes the difference of about 80 marks. And that's the gap that you need to bridge in order to clear the means or to get the buffer of 50 to 60 marks. Okay, with respect to the overall interviews or to make your preparation interview proof. Okay, so that is what we are going to discuss. Okay, so first of all, let's analyze what went wrong. Okay, so to be honest, before getting your mark sheets, there is no purpose or there is no logic behind analyzing what went wrong, because you don't know where in which paper you have messed up, you don't know where you have done good, you don't know whether it is the optional or essay or any one of the GS paper that has costed you your means, right? So till you get your answers, the mark sheet, okay, that will be in the April. Till that time, there is no point in making any speculations. Rather, based upon the toppers answers or the methods that I will be showing, based upon that you just compare your answers with those, and based upon that you just identify your gaps. And when mark sheet will be released in the month of April, by that time you'll be already into the prelims mode and you won't get any time to make the corrections, right? So it's better to compare your answers with the methods that I am showing, and based upon that identify your gaps and apply the suggestions or apply the solutions that I will be giving. Okay, so first obviously is the knowledge gap, where you will be lagging behind in terms of the knowledge, where if you see or if your previous marks are in the range of 620 or in the range of 630 or 40, where you are not able to clear your means by about 80 to 100 marks, that means there is a clear knowledge gap or you haven't completed your syllabus. Okay, so knowledge gap mainly highlights the major issues. That is, first of all, it's how you prepare, right? So where you either go by the methods that normal students apply. They make standard books as their single source of the means. Okay, so beyond they just read the books and after that they just go to the exam. Okay, or they pick any of the toppers copies, or they pick the syllabus, and based upon that they try to prepare the or they try to wrap up their syllabus. That's the one fundamental mistake that majority of the aspirants do. Because why? What they miss through this method is, firstly, they miss the recent trends, or they miss the micro themes which are very popular or which is the basis of the UPSC papers in recent years. For example, last year's paper, you just pick GS paper 1, 2 and 3. In all the 3 papers, you will find the question on the civil society. This year, you pick GS paper 2 and GS paper 4. In both the papers, you will find the question on the constitutional morality. Or in GS paper 1, you will find the question on the civil services, which is not there into the syllabus. Right? So what the point is, rather than going by these, right, you base your preparation through the PYQs plus micro themes. Right, the micro theme document is already there into the on Civilsdaily. You can download it freely and make micro theme as the base of your preparation. So whatever the micro themes of the means that are covered and on which the PYQs have been asked in last 12 years, you have to ensure that you have 1-pager notes for every micro theme. That's the first gap that you need to fill. The second is the poor conceptual clarity. Right? In every paper, you have 2 to 3 questions where they will ask you the meaning of the concepts. For example, if you see this particular question, in the context of manufacturing sector, what does missing middle signify? Okay, so if you haven't covered the manufacturing sector properly, you will write a wrong answer. For example, the missing middle, he has explained it signifies the middle people who are involved in manufacturing yet not involved in the profit sharing. So this is outright wrong. So you will end up making the factual errors. Missing middle with respect to the manufacturing sector in India highlights the issue where 95% of your industries are small and micro, and the medium and large industries comprise just 5%. That is the missing middle in India's manufacturing sector. So without conceptual clarity, you will end up factual errors. That's the second knowledge gap that you need to fill. The third is the static and current disconnect. So basically what does static and current disconnect means is that you do the passive reading of current affairs, right? So henceforth, that's the one of the biggest knowledge gap that the students have, which we also call it the lack of common sense, right? So whatever news you are reading or whatever things that you are experiencing, it should be your methodology or it should be your priority to link it with any of the micro theme. I'm not saying syllabus, I'm saying micro theme. Okay, because syllabus is static, it hasn't been changed in last 1 decade. Micro theme highlights the recent trend. For example, how you have to link your static with the current is, see the answer of, I'm showing you answer of Aditya Srivastav. Okay, if you see this point, innovative and convenient public services, better use of mobiles as with UPI for every payment. And the example that he has given, German minister paying for vegetables via UPI. Now, if you go through the newspaper, it was a picture or it was in the, it was not even the any editorial or anything. It was just the picture that they put into the newspaper where the German ambassador bought the news vegetables by paying the UPI. Right? You also came across such news or such pictures on daily newspapers. So the point is you need to link it with the particular micro theme. So when he had read this particular news or if, when he had seen this particular picture in the newspaper, he immediately must have linked it to the topic of the e-governance. Right? So whatever news you are reading or whatever the events that you are experiencing or you are reading anywhere, be it in news, be it in Twitter or be it in Instagram, whatever, immediately you should be able to think where I can use this particular news as an example or as a substantiation part, right? So that is one of the biggest knowledge gap that students have, and because of that only the substantiation aspect in the answers is missing. If you see the answers of any topper in last 5 years, be it Ishita Kishore, Aditya Srivastav, Animesh Pradhan, Shakti Dubey, Archit Dongre, or Aditya Srivastav, in all their answers, one common theme that you will find is the, for maximum of their points, they will substantiate using the example or using the data. So if you see in this question, for every point, he has substantiated using the examples. When I will show the other answers, okay, there also you will find the similar trend of the Ishita Kishore or those. Okay, second, take the banking to homes. Example, Yono app. Now, Yono SBI have app. Those who have the account in the SBI, you must have used that app. So this is how you have to link your current affairs with the static, or immediately after reading any news, you just give 1 minute or you just think where I can use this, in which micro theme or in which answer I can use this, or how I can use this. That is the second or the third knowledge gap that you need to fill. Okay, and because of this knowledge only or this disconnect only, ठीक है, you miss out on the substantiation part, right? So those who are stuck in the range of 650, 660, or even those who are not able to get 50 to 60 extra marks beyond the cutoff in means, the primary reason is this: lack of substantiation of your points. Gone are the days if you see the toppers answers of before 2018. Okay, so if you see toppers answers of Gaurav Agrawal or Tina Dabi, you will find their answers in paragraph format. The point format started from Anudeep Durushetty 2017. Even during that, it was just in the point format, no substantiation was needed. If you see the answers of 2018 or 19 topper Kanish Kataria, you won't find any substantiation. It will be just dimension coverage. But presently, what UPSC is expecting from you guys is not just the dimension coverage, but the substantiation with data or example. And the last knowledge gap that majority of the students face is the poor revision cycles. So basically, what happens is that after the mains result, okay, or after the mains, they don't have any roadmap. So because of that, they waste their time till January or February. So because of lack of roadmap, you are not able to consolidate your content. You are not able to fill those gaps. You are not able to practice, or you are not able to do the value addition. And because of that, because after the February, you have to start with your prelims. And because of that, after the prelims, your majority of your time goes to covering of your optional and doing the value addition in GS or preparing your notes. Rather, what toppers do, they utilize this time most productively. They consolidate their notes, they refer toppers' answers, they do the value additions from them. Okay, and after the prelims, their only job is to revise and practice. Because if you miss out on the practice aspect, okay, then your chances of getting very good score in the mains are very less. You might clear the mains, but you will never enter into top 50. Okay, that is the first thing, because only with the practice you can fill the gaps in the presentation, or you can bring the neatness in your answers, or you can bring the X factor into your answers. And these three things give you the edge of 0.5 mark or 1 mark in every answer. Okay, so utilizing this next 75 days or wasting this next 75 days is one of the major knowledge gap. Okay, and that is reflected in this marks, and that is reflected in these kind of the answers. Okay, this guy has the 619 marks. Why? Because of the factual errors. Second, if you see no substantiation, nothing. ठीक है, वही अगर आप टॉपर्स के आंसर्स देखोगे तो यू विल फाइंड द मैक्सिमम ऑफ द सब्सटेंशिएशन. और ऐसा नहीं होता है कि जब पॉइंट दैट दे आर राइटिंग दे आर आउट ऑफ द बॉक्स या फिर आपको पता नहीं है. इफ यू रीड दिस पर्टिकुलर आंसर, ये सारे पॉइंट्स आपको सारों को पता है, right? Many of you must have seen the picture of German minister or the ambassador purchasing or paying with the UPI. But आप वो passively देखते हो, you never think where I can use this, right? And that is what we call as the application gap, right? Specifically these kind of the aspirants who miss out on the, or who miss out their mains because of very less marks. कि अगर 748 cut off है तो you will miss by 10 to 15 marks, or you might clear the mains but only on the boundary. तो आपका mains भी boundary पे ही clear होता है. So ultimately, even if you get average marks in the interview, 168 is the average, it is not low. ठीक है, 185 plus is above average, 200 and 200 plus is excellent. Right? So even if you get average marks in the interview, then also you are not able to clear the, or you are not able to get into the final list. So this is the application gap which you need to fill, because ऐसे जो aspirants होते हैं, ठीक है, in Smash means many of the such aspirants come. This is the mark sheet of one of the Smash student only. ठीक है, what had happened कि उसके जब हमने papers मंगाए last 3 years के, it was the same pattern, same mistakes और same kind of the content that he wrote. And because of that उसका score stagnant रहा, उसका score कभी improve ही नहीं हो पाया, because after the prelims आपको time मिलता ही नहीं है. If आपका knowledge gap अगर रहा होगा, आपने content build नहीं किया होगा, जो structural issues है वो आपने bridge नहीं किए होंगे through the mentor discussions और practice, तो prelims के बाद वो changes लाना काफी difficult होता है, because there is the very vast syllabus. You have to manage GS plus optional, you have to manage the practice, right? So knowledge gaps also fuels the application gap, right? So basically application gap comes majorly because of this aspect, knowing versus performing gap. तो जैसे कि मैंने कहा, those aspirants who are getting 700 plus score in the mains or missing the cutoff by just 10-15 marks, तो that doesn't mean they don't have the knowledge या फिर उन्होंने पढ़ाई नहीं की होती है. ठीक है, उन्होंने भी अच्छे से ही पढ़ाई की होती है. दे हैव द नॉलेज, दे हैव देयर नोट्स, उन्होंने सिलेबस भी कवर किया होता है, बट देयर इज अ डिफरेंस इन नॉलेज एंड परफॉर्मेंस. ऐसे भी बहुत एस्पिरेंट्स होते हैं कि जिनको पता सब है, बट आंसर्स लिखते टाइम वो नॉलेज इज नॉट रिफ्लेक्टेड इनटू द आंसर्स. दैट इज दैट गैप, and that majorly comes because of lack of practice, and second is poor use of the frameworks, right? Poor use of the frameworks as in ki you don't have the ready-made frameworks through which you can brainstorm. For example, if the question is on the benefits, or when you have to highlight the significance of e-governance, ठीक है, simple framework that you can use is the stakeholder framework, right? जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल ई गवर्नेंस पे आपका क्वेश्चन मैंडेटरी आने वाला है ही, तो उसमें यू नीड टू बी रेडी विद द फ्रेमवर्क, दैट इज द स्टेक होल्डर फ्रेमवर्क. दिस फॉर एग्जांपल द सिग्निफिकेंस ऑफ ई गवर्नेंस, simply you just classify it: significance for government, for citizens, for business, and for public administration. Or you have the pestle framework, or you have the pies framework. So for every micro theme you need to have the ready-made frameworks. This is again, one micro theme is the local government. Every year you are going to have one question on the local government. The simple framework for it's 4F: fund, function, functionaries, functionalities. So whatever issues you are highlighting, you use 4F framework. Whenever you are giving way forward, you talk about those 4Fs. So that is the one thing or the one gap that you guys need to fill. Okay? Then only you will be able to generate sufficient dimensions and bring diversification into your answers. Otherwise, you will end up writing only generic answers, because you have very limited time for brainstorming. 10 marker question you have to finish in about 7 minutes, right? So you can't take 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes to think, generate points, and then write, right? So if you don't have the frameworks, you have to process the entire content that you have. From that you have to generate the points, right? But if you have the frameworks, you will be easily able to write 4 to 5 points. Okay. Next, key lack of real-time structuring ability, where you are not able to identify the demand properly or the keywords properly. And last is the underdeveloped answer writing muscle. So what is the answer writing muscle? Is basically 60% of your questions will be directly related to the PYQs. Okay, for example, the very first question in GS paper 1 was on Harappa. The same question was there in 2013. So if अगर आपने prelim PYQs properly cover किए हैं, if you have covered PYQs properly, if you have read their model answers, or if you have brainstormed over the PYQs, and the best if you have written the PYQs, trust me, 60% of your preparation will be done. Okay. So in every paper, around 10 to 12 questions will be directly related to the PYQs, and in those you will be having at least 50 to 60% content ready. आपको वहां ज्यादा सोचने की भी जरूरत नहीं पड़ती है. You will be having those ready made. Second, the lack of practice, where you don't write the sufficient amount of the full length tests. How and why that is relevant, that I will show later on. Okay. So this is how your application part fails. Okay. For example, if you see here what they have asked, concept of nutrition sensitive food system. Okay. And suggest strategies. So even if you have structure, proper structure, but they have talked about food system. So food system has to involve agriculture. Right, but here he has missed the points about the agriculture. That is with respect to the crop diversification, with respect to climate resilience of agriculture. Here also, with respect to the nutrition, though he has mentioned the government schemes, but he has missed out on the most important nutrition specific schemes of the government. What are the most important nutrition specific schemes? The midday meal, Poshan Abhiyan, ICDS. Right. So until and unless you bridge your knowledge gap and you apply those into your answers with practice, you won't be able to write good answers. Okay. Then the third aspect is the demand gap. अब यहाँ पे pay close attention to this कि how the answer writing of the UPSC is changing. ठीक है. तो जैसे फॉर एग्जाम्पल what the majority of the aspirants do, or those who haven't analyzed the papers of the toppers properly, yeah, they will be focusing upon the directives given in the question rather than keywords given into the question. Okay, this is the major shift that has happened in the recent years. Okay, how the directive, so from directive it is keywordization, which majority of the aspirants miss. Okay, how do they miss? That I will show from the answer of Shakti Dubey. Second important aspect that they miss is the difference between the implicit and explicit demand. Okay, so many of the questions where what UPSC does is they first give the sentence, and after that sentence they ask the question where there is a directive. So what students miss is that they don't pay attention or they don't address the first part of the question. Okay. Third thing is going beyond the demand, which I highlighted in the answer of Aditya Srivastav. Wherever you are mentioning the challenges, every time you have to keep in mind to provide the way forward or government schemes. And the 20% rule is it shouldn't cross 20% of the space or weightage. So you have to mention it very briefly, but you have to go beyond the directive and you have to cover these aspects into your answers. For example, in this particular question also, अगर आप देखोगे तो two core demands of the question are clear. Explain the concept of nutrition sensitive foods, and second, suggest strategies. Right, so you have explained the concept, you have come to the strategies, but without highlighting the issues, there is no point in providing the strategies. right? So rather than government initiatives, after this, briefly the issues in nutrition sensitive, you can use a flowchart, just highlight 3 to 4, right? Or you can simply provide the data with respect to this. 57% women having anemia, then the data with respect to the stunting, wasting and undernourishment. Okay, then inclusion exclusion errors in PDS, those points, or the rural urban gap, those points, and then you come to the suggestions. So without highlighting the challenges, if you provide just the way forward because of the directive, that answer will never be complete, right? So this is how you have to ensure that your answers are properly structured. And that comes only with the practice and only with the help of the mentor. Okay, this. And last aspect is the over answering or under answering. So basically, this is where over answering is basically where your space management fails or where you have the content overload. And under answering is where you have the content deficit. Right? Where you have the content overload, you have to use the proper presentation. That is, you have to make the maximum use of the diagrams, flowcharts to ensure that your dimension coverage increases. Okay, for example, suppose like we talked about this, the local bodies. The one issue is, suppose you have to mention just 5 issues and you are using the framework fund, function, functionaries and functionality. So while highlighting the issues of funds, rather than just giving it as the subheading and writing 1 point, you write 2 to 3 points. 95% dependence on grants. Second, poor devolution of powers or taxation powers. Third, even if taxation powers are there, poor tax collection. So in the space of 1 point, with this you can cover 3 points. So I will show one of the answer of Shruti Sharma and you will find how you have to increase the dimension coverage. Right. And second, where you have the content deficit, there also you have to make the presentation, or you have to use the diagrams or maps, etc. to build that content deficit. I will show one answer of Ishita Kishore that will highlight this. Okay. And for example, this, where he hasn't even understood the demand of the question. The question specifically asks the role of the farmer producer organizations. But here all he has done is talking about the agriculture overall. Okay, this is how you miss out on the demand. Next is, or the third gap in your preparation is with respect to the structure. Okay, and this is the most important one because the basic logic behind it is, okay, trust me when I say this, your entire actual UPSC copy is going to be checked within 20 minutes. Okay, the evaluators of the UPSC have zero accountability. You have no recourse for the rechecking or Xerox copy or anything. Okay, they have zero accountability, plus they have a lot of workload. ठीक है, उनको बहुत सारी कॉपी चेक करनी होती है, तो your copy is going to be checked in maximum of the 20 minutes. So it's your job to have the proper structure to ensure the sufficient visibility of your key points. अगर ये नहीं रहा, he will get bored, he will get irritated while checking. So even if you have good content, you won't get good marks. The first answer of Animesh, Aditya Srivastav, जो मैंने दिखाया था, of 2022 and 2023, the major difference was with respect to the structuring. 2022 के उसके आंसर्स में एग्जाम्पल properly reflects नहीं हो रहे थे, but 23 he made a separate, or he provided the examples in the separate line, so that improved his structure. Then within structure, no proper weightage management. Now weightage management means कि जैसे for example, if your 10 marker question generally has 2 demands, तो you have to ensure that आपका जो पहला demand है that is getting covered in the first page, and your second demand is getting covered into the second page, and you are concluding in your answer. But majority aspirants, those who are not able to clear the prelims or mains, उनको क्या होता है कि they have more content for one demand. कि suppose significance and issues पूछे हैं, तो उनको significance ज़्यादा पता है, तो they will end up writing 1.5 page on the significance only. और जो दूसरा core demand होता है, उसके लिए they don't have the space, and that get compromised. And because of that, they get 2.5 marks of the first, but out of 2.5 they get only 1 mark in second part because they have covered it in only 0.5 page. Second thing in this is the weightage to the implicit demand. Okay, so this part is also equally important. अगर एक पार्ट को ही आप बहुत अच्छे से कवर करके आ रहे हो and then you are expecting good marks, you are not going to get it. ठीक है, you have to give equal weightage to all the core demands of the questions. ठीक है, जैसे आदित्य श्रीवास्तव का भी जो मैंने आंसर दिखाया था, this one, if you see, there is a clear weightage that he has given, 4 or 5 points here, 4 points here. ठीक है, almost equal weightage. ठीक है, so this you have to ensure into your answer. The second aspect of the structure gap is the weak introductions and conclusions. So normally क्या होता है कि you have some templates. जैसे for example, let me give you an example. How many of you have use SDG in your conclusions? Just raise your hand. SDG आप कितने लोग conclusions में use करते हो? Okay, so many of you do the or use the SDGs into your answer. But वही आप you check the answer copies of toppers of 2024. ठीक है, बहुत कम लोग SDGs यूज कर रहे हैं अब, और even we suggest not to use the SDGs much. ठीक है, out of 20, maximum of 2 questions max you can use, but beyond that not. Why? Because introductions and conclusions, introduction is your first impression and conclusion is your last impression of the answer. Okay, here you need the proper innovation and it needs to reflect. So for example, introduction needs to reflect that you have understood the demand of the question, whereas conclusion needs to reflect your futuristic and optimistic outlook. And why we don't suggest SDG is that 90% of the aspirants conclude their answer with the SDGs. तो आपके कंक्लूजन में और उनके कंक्लूजन में ज्यादा डिफरेंस नहीं रहता है. तो even if you have some X factor pointers into your main body, then also because of the common conclusion you will end up with common marks. And that is why we suggest to go for the innovative introductions and conclusions. How toppers do it, that I will show. The next is lack of clear subheadings, where you are not able to use the keywords. ठीक है, जैसे मैंने कहा कि your copy is going to be evaluated in 20 minutes. They will just see what keyword or the underlying part of this and the example or the substantiation that you have given or the data that you have given. So the use of the keywords becomes very important to highlight the knowledge depth that you have. ठीक है, and one, this is very critical कि ये आपको कोई नहीं बताएगा कि even while writing the points you need to give the proper sequence. तो जो आपके core parts है, those have to come or the number or the sequencing of your points also need to reflect the logical flow. कि suppose जैसे मैंने कहा कि e-governance तो classify करो points, or if you are using the pestle, ठीक है, or the suppose if you ask what are the major challenges faced by Indian agriculture, तो जो core structural issues है जैसे fragmentation of land, ठीक है, और lack of crop diversification, वो आपके पहले ही रहने चाहिए। वहां पे अगर आप लिखोगे फेमिनाइजेशन ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर वगैरह तो आपको मार्क्स बिल्कुल नहीं आएंगे। ठीक है, तो द सीक्वेंसिंग ऑफ द पॉइंट्स आर आल्सो इंपॉर्टेंट। ठीक है, दिस एंड लास्ट इज द ओवरस्टफ्ड पैराग्राफ्स, जो मेजरली प्रेजेंटेशन का भी इशू होता है। कि जैसे कि मैंने बताया कि दी वन रूल दैट यू नीड टू स्ट्रिक्टली फॉलो इनटू योर आंसर्स इज इफ इट इज अ 10 मार्कर क्वेश्चन, आपके आंसर में 11 to 12 पॉइंट्स होने ही चाहिए। ठीक है, आई विल शो यू वन आंसर ऑफ शक्ति दुबे वेयर शी हैज रिटन 19 पॉइंट्स इन अ 10 मार्कर क्वेश्चन, दैट इज ऑफ इथिक्स क्वेश्चन। ऐसे ही 140 इथिक्स में क्रॉस नहीं होता है, एंड आउट ऑफ दोज 19, 12 points were substantiated with examples. And for the 15 marker question, at least 17 to 18 points आपके आंसर में होने ही चाहिए। ठीक है, and it is possible only when the length of your points is maximum 2.5 to 3 lines or 2 lines. When you write about 4 lines in any of the point, आपके इतने डायमेंशंस कभी भी नहीं कवर हो पाएंगे। और आप कोई भी टॉप 5 रैंक होल्डर्स की कॉपी उठा के देखो, यू विल फाइंड एवरेज these many points into their answers. ठीक है, so this is one of the structure gap that you need to fill. And the last structure gap, जैसे the aspect which I showed, this where rather than 1 point you write 3 points. So if you see answer of Shruti Sharma, मैक्सिमम आप जितने भी आप लोगों को व्हेन यू विल राइट द पॉइंट्स, इतने स्पेस में आपके ज्यादा से ज्यादा 2 पॉइंट्स आएंगे, राइट, बट विथ यू दिस काइंड ऑफ द डायग्राम शी हैज कवर्ड 4 पॉइंट्स इन द सेम स्पेस। ठीक है, दिस इज हाउ you have to bring in innovation and you have to utilize the frameworks to increase your dimension coverage. ठीक है, then the last gap into your preparation is the presentation gap. ठीक है, so remember presentation makes the difference of about 0.5 marks. So the neatness in your answers, innovations in your answers, use of the diagrams, flow charts, the interlinking circular diagrams, those make the difference of 0.5 mark in every answer. ठीक है, and again 0.5 and 80 questions, that's the difference of about 40 overall marks. तो यही छोटी छोटी चीजें होती है which you need to understand, which you need to practice and which you need to apply to escape the veteran trap. ठीक है, so within presentation gap, जैसे the Aditya Srivastava answer which I showed, कि examples were not properly visible in 2022 answers. So even with the knowledge that he had, he could become only IPS. But in 23, when his examples become more visible, he got AR1. Second, map-based representation. Now what you do, majority of you just draw the map or just highlight the part of it, right? यही करते हो आप majority of the aspirants जो 700 के रेंज में वगैरह होते हैं, but the detailing in the map is missing. The level of detailing that the toppers brings, that I will show. Then specifically in GS3, lack of use of the pie charts and graph. Then the messy drawings or very poor drawings. And these all comes because you don't have the personal visual toolkit. ठीक है, अगर आप टॉपर्स के नोट्स देखोगे, मेनी ऑफ द टॉपर्स हैव देयर सेपरेट compilation of the diagrams specifically of ethics. We also have prepared one separate diagram book for ethics. जिन्होंने भी स्मैश मीन्स किया है उनको पता होगा. Similarly, you need to have these similar diagrams for the microthemes. So suppose if you have one diagram for the question on NGO, आपको पता है कि अगले साल question is going to come on either pressure group or NGO or civil society organization. आपको उसका डायग्राम तैयार करके ही रखना है, एंड ऑटोमेटिकली आफ्टर द इंट्रोडक्शन द डायग्राम विल कम. कैसे, मैं बताता हूँ. ठीक है, सो दिस इज द आंसर विच इज वेरी पुअर इन द प्रेजेंटेशन. ठीक है, सो 6 लाइन का एक पॉइंट है. बिकॉज ऑफ दैट ओवरऑल पॉइंट्स अगर आप देखोगे तो 6 ही पॉइंट्स है 10 मार्कर में, तो उसको 2.5 या मैक्सिमम 3 मार्क्स ही मिलेंगे. ही विल नेवर क्रॉस दैट बैरियर. ठीक है, नाउ ये क्लियर है? एनी डाउट्स विथ रिस्पेक्ट टू द गैप्स? यस, बिकॉज नाउ आई विल कम टू द कोर पार्ट कि हाउ टू ब्रेक दिस साइकिल. यहां तक एनी डाउट्स? यस, क्लियर है? यही आपके गैप्स है? इसके बियॉन्ड आर देयर एनी गैप्स? यस. Yes, how to form unique intro and conclusion. Now in the solution part I will explain. There are no 20 or 25 marker question in the GS. ठीक है, यही आपके गैप्स है. इसके बियॉन्ड और कोई गैप है that I missed? Right, so the major gaps that you have are with respect to the demands, where you miss implicit demand, where you don't go beyond the demand. With respect to the application, where even if you have knowledge, even if you have notes, they are not properly reflected into your answers because of lack of practice and lack of frameworks, poor structuring of the answers. Okay. And the last with respect to the presentation. So now let's understand how to break this cycle. Okay. Impact of handwriting is not much as long as your handwriting is legible. जब तक कोई उसको पढ़ सकता है प्रॉपरली तब तक कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. ठीक है, यस. नाउ फर्स्ट टू ब्रिज द नॉलेज गैप. ठीक है, उसमें सबसे पहले इनोवेटिव इंट्रोडक्शंस एंड कंक्लूजन्स. ठीक है, सो इफ यू सी द बेस्ट वे ऑफ इंट्रोडक्शंस इज you can use a quote or you just rephrase the question. Okay, so if you see, this is the answer of Ishita Kishore. She had 121 in GS1. Okay, so if you see, post-pandemic India is staring at challenge of learning poverty, analyze implications. So basically this is with respect to the education or digital education. So the introduction, innovative introduction that she has brought. Nation's classrooms determine its future, quote. And then she has provided the linked it with the theme. But empty classes reflect erosion of scientific inquiry in youth. This is what I call the innovative and impactful introductions. So this level of the introductions you need to bring into your answers. और वो तभी possible होगा when you have read the toppers answers. उसको आप माइक्रो थीम से लिंक करोगे एंड उसको आप अप्लाई करोगे. अब यहां से आपको पता चला कि इफ द क्वेश्चन कम्स ऑन दी डिजिटल एजुकेशन, मेरा इंट्रोडक्शन ये रहने वाला है. ठीक है, और इन ओवरऑल इंट्रोडक्शन ऑन एजुकेशन ऑल्सो you can use similar or you can use this quote. ठीक है, then Shubham Kumar, similar Gandhian ideals can be immense help in dealing COVID-19. Okay, so he has used 2 quotes of Gandhi. Serving to people and best way to find yourself is to throw yourself in service of others. Not just one quote, he has used 2 quotes and then linked it with the theme. These words are very important during COVID. Now आप बताओ ये दोनों कोट्स आप सभी को पता होंगे. Those who have written the mains, they must know about these quotes, right? But the thing that you don't know is where to apply those quotes. The application gap comes here. आपने कभी सोचा भी नहीं होगा कि both of them quote I will use as the introduction. Right now, is this introduction impactful or not? Is this going to give the very good first impression to the evaluator or not? This you have to bring, or this kind of the innovation you have to bring into your answers. The second, where यहाँ पे भी, this is Shruti Sharma, ठीक है? So this is GS3 actually, not 4. This is with respect to the agricultural technology, technological interventions in agriculture. If you see the imaginative introduction that she has given, Indian farmer's image has not changed much from what Premchand chalked out in his Puski Raat. So she has talked about the book. Right, and then she has linked it with the theme of the question, that is because of absence of technological revolution. This is how you have to bring innovations into your introductions, through the use of the quotes and then linking it with the theme of the question. Introduction always have to be reflection of the theme of the question. Okay, is this clear? Yes, please turn on the camera. I need to see your expressions whether you are able to understand or not. If possible, everyone please. Next aspect is the content deficit that you have, and to bridge that content deficit, okay, you have to go for the X factor notes. Okay, the X factor notes that I showed, this, यहाँ पे भी 2-3 लोग हैं who are or who were part of the smash means, ठीक है, जिन्होंने X factor notes पढ़े हैं. They are again freely available. You can download any X factor notes of any topic. You can just give it a view and then you yourself will find the value to it. Okay, the points are given exactly in the framework that you need. Every point at the beginning has the keyword and then substantiated with proper example, the same way that toppers use. Okay, so whatever content deficit that you have, and secondly, all the X factor notes are made from the perspective of micro themes rather than syllabus. So 99% of your syllabus is covered in X factor notes. So from there you have to do the value addition. And the third and fourth thing that you are going to use with respect to the knowledge gap is the model answers of the FLTs. Because we have 70% hit ratio. So for example, you must have access to that document also, where we have shown how our questions were directly reflected into the actual UPSC. ठीक है, so यहाँ पे भी अगर आप देखोगे तो in the every model answers of the X factor, we have given the separate table as X factor pointers, and these are going to be unique aspects, or these are going to be the X factor into your answers. तो जो extra 0.5 आपको मिलने वाले हैं, those are going to come from these. This is from the perspective of the, or this is from the answer related to the Naxalism. So the data decline of 53% or recent Bastar fighters, Operation Black Forest, take a total number of districts. These specific data, if you can bring it into your answers, definitely that is going to give you an age of at least 0.5 marks. And last is the model answers of the PYQs in Smash PYQ. Okay, so if you see, these are the so just for example, why I said you have to read the model answers of the FLT. So our GA, for our FLT, the first paper is GS2, second is GS3, sorry, GS2, then GS4, and then GS1. So our FLT3 was our first test of GS1. And the very first question was with respect to the Harappa only. Why? Because we knew 2020 Harappa completed 100 years of discovery. It was discovered by John Marshall in 1924. And the second X factor is Dholavira as the UNESCO World Heritage Site in 21. And the very first question of the UPSC also was salient features of Harappan architecture. Okay, now I can use this X factor into the model answers itself. I can use those as the examples also. But specifically why I have segregated those X factors और मैं टेबल में क्यों दे रहा हूँ? Because I want you to have or ensure maximum visibility of those X factors. Rather than simply using them as the examples, आपको उसको will show an answer of Aditya Srivastav. This. Okay, this is the case study that he has provided with respect to the citizen charters. He could use that as the example somewhere here. Okay, or he can give the way forward as a point. But why he chose this kind of the box? Because it ensures the visibility of his keywords. He knows this is going to be his X factor. Or because of this kind of the presentation, evaluator इसको देखेगा ही देखेगा. That is what we call ensuring the visibility of your key points. So similarly, what we suggest to the students is that whatever the X factor pointers that we are giving into our answers, you make a box and you ensure you are putting those into that box, because that ensures visibility, that enhances the impact of it. ठीक है? Is this clear? ये समझ आया? Okay. The next part with respect to the bridging the deficit is your application deficit. Application deficit as in, or to bridge the application gap as in, even if you have read everything, even if you have content, even if you have made notes, then also your answers are not the proper reflection of your knowledge. And to bridge that particular gap, you need to anchor your preparation on micro themes. ठीक है, जैसे फॉर एग्जाम्पल वन ऑफ योर माइक्रो थीम इज सिविल सोसाइटी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस. ठीक है, एवरी ईयर यू हैव द क्वेश्चन. लास्ट ईयर का अगर आप पेपर देखोगे तो सिविल सोसाइटी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस क्वेश्चन इज देयर इन जीएस पेपर 1, जीएस पेपर 2, जीएस पेपर 3. So based upon that aspect, if you know कि civil society organization is a micro theme, and if you have the ready-made structure of it, for example, this is the structure that, or this is the answer of AR4 Smruti Mishra, where she has utilized this diagram into the answer on the NGO. The same diagram is applicable in the answers of सिविल सोसाइटी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. यहाँ पे आप प्रेशर ग्रुप कर सकते हो, यहाँ पे सिविल सोसाइटी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन कर सकते हो, डिपेंडिंग अपॉन द क्वेश्चन, बट सेम डायग्राम विल बी देयर. नाउ you have your introduction ready, now you have your diagram ready. On any question related to the civil society organization, you can put this diagram, right? So your answer will look like this. Now this is the PYQ answer only that we wrote in this Smash PYQ. Okay, so in this Smash PYQ where we write the previous year answers, so this is the PYQ that we have written. So if you see how beautifully we have incorporated all those aspects. Okay, in the introduction also, the use of the keyword or the quote, CSO and NGO are the connective tissue between state intent and citizen impact. Okay, so on any question related to the CSO, this is going to be your introduction. This diagram, which we picked from the AR4 in every answer. Okay, then role of civil society. Here we have followed the sectoral approach. Role in different sectors. Role in education, health, women empowerment, rural development, with respect to awareness and advocacy, with respect to environment. written every point we have substantiated using the example. Then though ki present alternative model, so first we have highlighted their strengths, then we have come to the challenges. And here also, if you can see, maximum of our points are substantiated using the data or examples. Then the way forward, where we have mentioned committees, okay, or the state level best practices. And again, in the conclusions, a quote. So this is the level of the answer that you need to write. And again, now in any question on the civil society organization, आपको वैसे भी एक ही क्वेश्चन आने वाला है. You can use the similar framework. Now you have introduction ready, you have conclusion ready, you have committees ready, you have sufficient amount of the examples. So only with this kind of the approach, you can bridge the application gap. Okay. This next aspect of the application gap is this. So you have to use, or you have to go beyond the syllabus, and you have to anchor your preparation on Microtheme. Next aspect is PYQs. So when you go for the Microtheme based, you will automatically cover PYQs, and you have to ensure the maximum of the PYQs are either written or on brainstormed. Okay. Don't just go through the PYQ to understand the pattern. Make sure you are either brainstorming over the PYQs, that is, you are either answering them in a rough way or you are actually writing the PYQs. Because like I said, 60% of your questions are going to be directly or indirectly related to the PYQs. And that's what we do in the Smash PYQ. Last 8 years of the answers, we do the live answer writing. Okay. And next and the most important, practice, practice, practice. The best example of this is Animesh Pradhan. So he got AR2 in his very first attempt, but before that, in the 1 year, he wrote 48 Samachar Manthans, and each paper was used to be 10 of 10 questions. So 480 questions he had already written before starting his prelims preparation. And after the prelims, about 12 FLTs. So 480 plus 12 into 22, 40 questions. Right, about 700 questions he had written. That's why he was able to get AR2 in the first attempt. Last, adopting the best practices, like I showed from the toppers. Okay, so for this, what we have done is basically we have now what majority of the aspirants do, या फिर आप भी क्या करते हो कि you just pick the paper of the topper. Suppose Shakti Dubey AR1, you download her ethics copy. सबसे पहला मिस्टेक तो आप ये करते हो कि you don't see the year in which she has written those answers. जैसे आदित्य श्रीवास्तव का भी मैंने दिखाया, शक्ति दुबे का भी अगर आप पेपर देखोगे तो दी पेपर्स दैट आर अवेलेबल फ्रीली ऑन द इंटरनेट, ठीक है, वो उसने 2023 में लिखे हैं, सॉरी 22 में लिखे हैं. इन 22 शी डिडंट हैड अ रैंक. तो वो जो पेपर लिखे थे उसने, उसकी वजह से उसका रैंक नहीं आया था. सो दे आर नॉट यूजफुल फॉर यू. उसके आपको 2024 के पेपर्स देखने हैं. फर्स्ट थिंग यू मिस आउट ऑन दैट. सेकंड, आप डायरेक्टली उनके सब्जेक्ट वाइज पेपर डाउनलोड कर लेते हो या पेपर वाइज GS3 यू जस्ट डू दी पैसिव रीडिंग, ठीक है. दैट डजंट हैव मच इम्पैक्ट. रादर व्हाट वी प्रोवाइड यू इज दी माइक्रो थीम वाइज टॉपर्स कॉपीज. सो GS3 में द टॉप 10 रैंक होल्डर्स, ठीक है. सो टॉप 10 डजंट मीन दी AR1 to 10. GS3 में सबसे ज्यादा जिन 10 लोगों के मार्क्स आए हैं, we pick their papers and from there we divide or we segregate their answers based upon micro themes. ठीक है, जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल इन स्मैश PYQ वी गिव दोज आंसर्स कि जिसमें अब इंडस्ट्रियल पॉलिसी वी ऐड द आंसर्स ओनली ऑफ द इंडस्ट्रियल पॉलिसी। जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल अगर आपको देखना है तो दिस इज, so these are the toppers answers only of गवर्नमेंट बजटिंग। ठीक है, सिर्फ बजटिंग रिलेटेड ही या फिर फिस्कल पॉलिसी रिलेटेड ही क्वेश्चंस आपको मिलेंगे। व्हेन यू हैव द रेडीमेड माइक्रो थीम्स वाइज टॉपर्स आंसर्स, उससे आपका एप्लीकेशन पार्ट इंप्रूव होता है, बिकॉज यू रीड ओनली फिस्कल पॉलिसी रिलेटेड क्वेश्चंस, फ्रॉम देयर इट इज वेरी इजी टू डू द वैल्यू एडिशन, फ्रॉम देयर इट इज वेरी इजी टू अडॉप्ट द बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस। ठीक है, दिस इज ऑन बजट। सिमिलरली दिस इज ऑन इंक्लूसिव ग्रोथ। सो जितनी भी टॉपर्स के इंक्लूसिव ग्रोथ के क्वेश्चंस है दीज, सो टू अडॉप्ट द बेस्ट प्रैक्टिस, ये जो डॉक्यूमेंट्स रहने वाले हैं where we have segregated the toppers answers based upon micro theme, this is going to be your prime source and ये आपको कहीं पे भी नहीं मिलने वाला है। एंड इसका इंपॉर्टेंस आपको when you will start incorporating this into your answers, ठीक है, after 1 month you will realize the difference into your answers with respect to the content also, with respect to the substantiation also, with respect to presentation also। ठीक है, then the next gap is the demand gap। So with respect to the demand gap, जैसे मैंने कहा कि you miss out on the implicit explicit demand, right? कि जहाँ पे simple statement होता है where you forget to or you don't give much importance to that or elaborate upon that, but वो भी उतना ही important होता है। जैसे for example this is Gamini Singla Air 3। If you see the question, open government data can be seen as a step toward greater transparency and accountability in India. This is first. This is a plain statement. In this context, discuss, this is where your directive is, benefits of open government data and challenges with it. Okay, so what you do is after the introduction, you directly start with the benefits. But you miss out on this step towards transparency and accountability. This is your implicit demand. ठीक है, अगर इसमें देखोगे आप, she has introduced with the definition and open data for transparency, accountability briefly. Even if you don't provide the substantiation, that's fine, and you don't even need to write it into the point format. With minimum of the space, using the diagram, you need to cover your implicit demand, and then only you can come to the explicit demand where you are writing into the points. This is one of the major gap which reduces your marks, because you are missing out on one of the demand of the question. Okay, so always henceforth remember कि wherever there is a statement in the question or whatever the keywords that are given in the question, transparency and accountability, you need to elaborate upon this. The best example of this is the answer of Shakti Dubey. Okay, if you see misusing of benefits intended for weaker sections, so benefits for weaker sections and the misusing of it leads to moral consequences. Discuss and how can such misuse be prevented, that is way forward. Okay, what you will do is you will write the moral consequences of it and then you will provide the way forward, but you will miss out on the misuse part and the benefits intended for weaker sections part, the keywords. So when I mention the word keywordization, यहाँ पे डायरेक्टिव का कोई इंपॉर्टेंस ही, और अब यू कैन से कि डायरेक्टिव का इंपॉर्टेंस काफी हद तक कम हो गया है। rather toppers are focusing upon the keywords given in the question and they are elaborating upon the keywords. For example, misuse of benefits intended for weaker sections, this part she has elaborated. So benefits for weaker sections, legal benefits, constitutional, institutional, this is the framework. Then example, right? And then misuse reasons, lack of checks and balance, inclusion, exclusion errors, proper data, corruption. Then she has come to the consequences, which is the core part of the question, which she has elaborated with points. And then to prevent misuse, again points. So this is just a 10 marker question, but if you see the number of points that she has covered, so 3 points here, 4, 5, 6, 7, and these 6, 13, and here 6 points. Total of 19 points she has covered in 10 marker. And if you give just 2 headings, okay, it will be very difficult to generate the 9 points, because पहले 4 से 5 पॉइंट जनरेट करना काफी इजी होता है, but 6-7 point become very difficult. Either it becomes generic or it becomes the duplication. So rather than that, what you do is you focus upon the keywords given in the question and you address each keyword briefly. Tabhi you will be able to increase the dimension coverage, and this is what we call as the keywordization of answer writing. Okay, is this clear? What is the keywordization? Because this is one of the most significant shift that has happened in the answer writing in the recent years. और यही जिनके ऑलरेडी 2-3 अटेम्प्ट्स हो चुके होते हैं, यही एस्पेक्ट उनको पता नहीं होता है. ये क्लियर है? Yes, any doubt still now? Yes. Next, within the demand, the way forward rule. Remember, wherever you are mentioning challenges or issues or any of the negative points, always you have to give the way forward irrespective of the demand. The very first answer of the Aditya Srivastav that I showed, this, अगर आप इसमें देखोगे, ठीक है, वे फॉरवर्ड पूछा नहीं गया, बट एज ही हैज मेंशन चैलेंजेस, he has provided one way forward, even if it is just one. So always remember that rule, because that completes your answer. It's not only relevant to just address the demands and finish the answer, that becomes very mechanical answer. But wherever you are mentioning the challenges, along with it, challenges and significance part highlights your analytical capacity, and way forwards highlights your problem solving approach or problem solving attitude. So हमेशा याद रखना, irrespective of the demand. हमें ये नहीं कह रहा कि you take entire one page for it, but before the conclusion there has to be a way forward. You can use a diagram also. So that is the way forward rule that you need to bring into your answers. और ये एक मेजर गैप होता है बहुत सारे एस्पिरेंट्स के आंसर्स में, कि वेयर दे से कि सर पूछा ही नहीं है तो क्यों लिखे. तो बिकॉज ऑफ दिस यू हैव टू राइट, बिकॉज दैट कंप्लीट्स योर आंसर्स. और अगर स्पेस है ही नहीं, कि सपोज आपने यहाँ पे 5वां चैलेंज लिखा और आपको वे कंक्लूजन के लिए या फिर वे फॉरवर्ड के लिए स्पेस है ही नहीं, in that case you conclude your answer with way forward. So this can be your conclusion. Rather than SDG, you conclude with the way forward. Okay, but always remember the way forward rule. And then the next thing with respect to the directive or the demand aspect is setting the context. So this is specifically important in context of the history. If you want to cross 110 in GS paper 1, okay, or even in other papers also. Okay, for example, if the question is on the Naxalism, you can briefly give a chronological chart highlighting the evolution of Naxalism. Or if suppose the question is with respect to the India's foreign policy at the present times, so you give the code-based introduction. After that, briefly you can highlight the evolution of India's foreign policy from NAM to strategic autonomy at present. Specifically in history, any question on the movement, you can set the context. This is from the answer of Utkarsh Dwivedi, who had 118 in GS paper 1. Okay, so the question is neither the mode of inception nor provisions of the Government of India Act were agreeable to Indian opinion. Okay, so basically question is asking about mode of inception, that is the method of adoption, and provisions were acceptable to India. But rather than directly talking about mode of inception or the provisions, what he has given is the context, events leading to Government of India Act 1935, Civil Disobedience Movement, Gandhi-Irvin Pact, Round Table Conference, MacDonald and Pune Pact. Okay, very simple. You can use the horizontal also, but that will show your knowledge depth. Okay, similarly, if the question is on the Naxalism, so after the introduction, briefly you can highlight the evolution of Naxalism in table. So started in 1967, then 2004 merging, then the Greyhound model, then government's policy, and then the present Operation Black Forest. Briefly, you set the context after the introduction. That will show your depth of your answer. That will be the differentiating factor between your answer and the answer of other aspirants. Okay. Is this clear with respect to the demand gap? How you are interpreting the questions? First, focus upon implicit demand. Second, way forward rule. And third, the context rule. ये समझ आया? Because if you understand these three and if you implement these three into your answers, automatically your structuring will improve. Automatically the attractiveness of your answer will improve. ठीक है? Clear है? समझ आया ये? Yes? Any doubts? Okay. Then the next aspect is the structure gap. So structure gap, one aspect I have already explained, keywordization, where you have to focus upon the keywords. Second, the space management, that is implicit demand has to be addressed with the diagram, and secondly, all the core demands needs to get equal weightage. If a 10 marker question is there with two demands, one page for one and second page for the second, you can't have 1.5 page for one demand and just half for the second. This is very simple thing, but without practice it won't come into your answers automatically. It has to be into your subconscious mind. And the third aspect is the dimension coverage rule, which is 11 to 12 points in 10 marker question, 17 to 18 points in 15 marker question. Okay. The last aspect is the presentation gap. Now this is going to give you the overall age of 40. इसके लिए आपको क्या करना है? फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, कि जैसे मैंने कहा कि यू हैव टू बेस योर प्रिपरेशन ऑन द माइक्रो थीम. So every micro theme wise, you need to have your flowcharts, graphs, charts, pie charts ready. Okay, suppose one micro theme is the inclusive growth. Again, every year you get one question on the inclusive growth, or you have the question on the poverty, right? Similarly, in the taxation related or government budgeting related question, every year you have. So you need to have those ready-made graphs, charts, or the flowcharts. Just say like this. These are the PYQ model answers that we provide, right? One pager answers only, not beyond one page. Again, length of the point is what you can easily, or you have to write exactly the same manner. Every point substantiated with either data or specific examples. Then the graphs. Here also global trade policy uncertainty index. These kind of the graphs or charts you need to incorporate into your answers. Okay. And the last thing with respect to the presentations is, for example, you can use the innovative ways also. Okay, so for example, this is the PYQ from the resolution of contentious issues regarding distribution of legislative powers, principle of federal supremacy, and harmonious construction. So basically, you have to talk about federal supremacy. So where the federal supremacy is where the powers of center are greater than the states, right? You can easily reflect or highlight that using the diagram where the powers are tilted in the favor of union. And the second aspect, harmonious construction, where there is a balance in power between center and states. You can use this. So these small diagrams highlights your knowledge depth plus your creativity. Okay, this diagram is not a rocket science, simple diagram hai. You all know, you all must have seen also this in any of the ethics answer. Right, so it's not the knowledge gap that you have, it's the application gap. Here itself you need to understand ki, okay, principle of federal supremacy is where center has greater powers, and second, harmonious construction is the balance. So I can use this diagram, and that is why you need to have the separate diagrams or the compilation of the diagrams ready. Okay, so this is the answer which we have written in this math PYQ. Here also, if you see, introduction starts with quote. Then, rather than simply focusing upon the keywords, issues regarding distribution of legislative powers. So we have addressed that also. So contentious issues regarding legislative powers. First, we have talked about those issues, and then only we have talked about federal supremacy and harmonious construction. Okay, so this is the level of keywordization, innovation, creativity that you need to bring into your answers. Again, that's why focusing upon the PYQs and micro themes becomes absolutely essential. Okay. Then the keywords and substantiation visibility. So this we already know. We have seen from the answers of Aditya Srivastava also. His answer of 2022 and 23. Okay. Last is with respect to the now maps. Okay, like I said, many of you, what you do, simply you draw the map, वहीं पे कुछ highlight करोगे and that's it. But remember, wherever you are drawing the maps, the most important aspect that you need to remember is the detailing. Okay. Only if you can highlight the important aspects, or only if there is a scope for detailing, you go for the map. Otherwise, don't draw the map just for the sake of drawing. Okay. So at least a simple rule for it, in if you want to draw the map, in that map at least 4 areas or at least 4 points should be mentioned. ठीक है, आप किसी भी टॉपर का देख लो, जैसे इशिता किशोर with respect to regional music 5 or 6. Here this is the level of the detailing that you need to. This is Shubham Kumar AR1. You can not just forget about this level of the detailing. See this which you see in the actual maps. आप में से कितने लोग ये निकालते हैं where they show the direction and they write map not to scale? Yes, किसी ने निकाला है आप में से? Again, it is not a rocket science. ये जो भी आप मैप देखते हो पढ़ते हो एक्चुअल उसमें होता है, right? And second, so this is the level of the neatness and precision that you need to bring in your map, and this is the level of the detailing that you need to bring it into your map. ठीक है, तभी आप मैप निकालो, अदरवाइज मत निकालो. Okay, that rather than positive impact, that will show the gender or that will highlight the generic nature of your map. ठीक है, This, for example, China's aggressiveness in recent times. So China's aggressiveness, he has shown it through the map, not just for India. Okay, so in Doklam, aggression with Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong, South China Sea, in Sri Lanka, Hambantota Port, Gwadar Port, CPEC route, right? China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. This, the threat he has mentioned. Okay, this is the Ladakh. So this is the level of the detailing that you need to bring in your maps. तभी map निकालो. ठीक है? And the best way of this also. This is AR1 Anudeep Durushetty. Again, with respect to the India's borders. So with respect to the questions on border security, you can draw the map, you can mention all these things. With respect to Pakistan, Afghanistan, China, this is Myanmar, Bangladesh, Arabian Sea. Okay. One more innovative way is of Shruti Sharma. You draw the small map and then you go for the detailing. So drawing map is not going to improve your presentation or is not going to give you more marks. It is the detailing in the map that is going to just say you can draw a very beautiful map and go for detailing, or you can draw a very crude map or very small map and then you can go for the detailing. So map doesn't matter. It is the detailing that matters. ठीक है? This. यहाँ तक सभी को क्लियर है कि what are your gaps and how you are going to bridge those gaps. Because after that, I am going to give you the roadmap to bridge how you are going to utilize the next few days. Okay? Are you able to understand the gaps and how you are? Turn on the camera, guys, please. Yes. Okay, good. Okay. Any doubts till now? Because I'm going to go with the roadmap now. Okay. Okay. Chalo. So now the roadmap which Arvind sir has also given you. Okay. So basic objective that you is you need to be means ready in by January end. So what does that means? What does means ready means? Okay, so basically bridging all those gaps, right? And those gaps will be bridged at the level of one content, okay, where you have to do the value addition and you have to make the notes based upon micro themes. Okay, so on the level of the content. Second is on the level of the practice. This you are going to do with Smash PYQ, which will cover last 8 years of the PYQ. That is 634 PYQs of last 8 years and the advanced tests. Yes, these are the two gaps that you are going to fill. And for this, you will be using this process. Okay, so the process is first, you have access to the 75 days plan given by Arvind sir. So that gives you the important micro themes which will cover 80% of your syllabus that you need to prioritize and that you need to cover and consolidate before January end. So that plan and those micro themes are going to be your target, right? So what you have to do, suppose my polity is there, you pick the micro themes highlighted by Arvind sir. Those are going to be your target in polity. Then he has, or we have also given the days in which you have to cover those micro themes. So you cover those micro themes from X factor. You do the value additions. Okay, then you go through the smash PYQ lecture, where you will understand the brainstorming aspect, you will understand the frameworks, and you will also write the PYQs with me. Okay, so you will also get the value addition contained from the toppers answers. You will get from the answers that we are writing. Then for that particular micro theme, you refer toppers answers. And once this is done, you attempt the advanced test. And after attempting your advanced test, you do the one-on-one with your mentor, where he will highlight the gaps. So till this, you will understand your own gaps. And the next stage is after the test, where mentor will identify the gaps for you. And with that discussions, you fill those gaps in your next test. So this is the process that you are going to follow. I know it is very rigorous, बट जितना वर्क आप जनवरी एंड तक करोगे, जितना ज्यादा एफर्ट आप जनवरी एंड तक डालोगे, उतना कम एफर्ट आपको प्रीलिम्स के बाद डालना पड़ेगा. ठीक है, नाउ इट्स योर चॉइस whether to follow the structured plan and be mains ready by January end, or whether to be confused, fragmented, and clueless in the 80 to 85 days after the prelims. It's the choice that you have to make. Okay, so this is the micro theme document that you will be using. X factor notes. From this, after this, you'll be watching the lecture, and then so in the lectures also, if you see, this is the level of the answers that we are attempting, where we are starting with the key data or the keywords. We are substantiating each point with data or examples. We are providing a diagram or the flow chart, and we are ensuring maximum of the dimension curve. This is how you have to increase the dimensions. So in this space of 1 point, we have covered 3. Right, so if you see, it is just a 10 marker question, but in this also we were able to bring about 15 points, and if you consider these also, 16, 17, 18 points in 10 marker. This is the level of the precision that you need to bring into your answers to get into top 10 in next year. This can come only with understanding of gaps, building content, and then application, and then with mentor discussion, corrections. This cycle, yeah, after the correction, again next micro theme or next subject. You have to ensure your entire syllabus is completed with this process in next 75 days. तभी you will be mains ready. उसके बाद after the prelims, all you have to do is just revise the content that you have built, just read your own answers that you have written, and then start writing the FLTs. Without that, considering the competition, अगर आपको competition का level ही पता करना है, तो you download any answer copy of Tina Dabi and you download any answer copy of Aditya, Animesh और शक्ति दुबे और अर्चित. ठीक है, टीना दाबी का कर लो, इनसे कंपेयर कर लो, यू योरसेल्फ विल अंडरस्टैंड द लेवल ऑफ द कंपटीशन, या फिर कंपटीशन कितना टफ हो गया. ठीक है, सो फॉर दैट अ प्रॉपर प्लान, अ प्रॉपर गाइडेंस एंड अ प्रॉपर रिसोर्सेस आर नीडेड. ठीक है, इज दिस क्लियर? यस, एनी डाउट्स? So this is the level of the advanced test that we have. And after this, you have to ensure the mentor discussions.